one of the things a lot of people hear tonight about and are interested in is public access. And one of the, and I had a public access show back about 1992, 93 for a year or 2 years. And I learned a lot there. And one of the kind of things that I think is really interesting about it and really important about it was that low barrier to entry. It didn't cost you anything, right? It was payback for using public right-of-ways to run cable lines and stuff. So, as citizens, you get to just walk in and use equipment that you couldn't imagine that you could afford. When I made a public access show in the early 90s, the equipment that I was using, simple VHS decks that only did, a cut. The deck itself is $15,000, and you need another one. That's another, and all of, more than, people's houses and stuff for this kind of equipment. So, and that was great. And you could put something on, and anyone that was a cable subscriber, which, could be hundreds of thousands of people in town, had the opportunity to see, what you created. Okay, so now, 15 years later, so now over the last 2 years, there's been a bunch of people really around the world getting into, what we call video blogging, which I'll explain. But part of what makes that happen is broadband internet access. Internet access that's fast enough to download and watch video, right? To be able to deliver video over the internet. And along with that, a bunch of other things. Computers that are cheap, cameras that are cheap, software to make video so that it's small enough to travel over broadband internet and be watchable. All of that kind of stuff has really happened in the last 2 years and become easy enough and cheap enough. Actually, when I kind of started doing some of this stuff 2 years ago, it was still it was like an expensive hobby, And today, besides the internet access and access to equipment, the rest of it, is actually free. If you want to, Barbara has a blog. It costs her internet access, and it costs her access to a computer. But the blog is free, and you've gotten, lots of influence, lots of things happening because of the words. And when you put video in a blog, you can write about what's in that video. You can describe it. It has this content. You can do things like tag it. It's kind of like adding a key. You become instantly really findable. The New York Times wrote this article, TV stardom on $20 a day. And I was mentioned in that. And then the San Antonio Express News picked up that idea and did their own kind of version of that. And they interviewed me about it. And I wrote on my blog how they completely missed the point, the New York Times and the San Antonio Express News. Now, there will be the opportunity for a few people, right? They'll make something that, millions of people will watch. It's still this teeny tiny percentage of that kind of stuff, right? What the vast majority of what people can do, people's tastes and interests and things that they find valuable and stuff is really much more varied. It's not mainstream. It's not, primetime television culture.